want to jump into another important one today, that is the effect that porn has on our brain. Oftentimes when I speak to people, they will often share that, look, I've been doing a lot of prayer around trying to break free from porn and nothing really seems to be working. Why can't I just overcome the temptation, the spiritual temptation of porn? Satan's very active in my life. He's tempting me a lot. And although that is very true, Satan is definitely at work. If you're a Christian, if you're a Catholic striving to live purity, you can bet the enemy is going to be tempting you. But oftentimes what we miss is we don't realize the psychological impact that porn actually has on our brain. Porn literally impacts the way that we think. It even changes the structure of our brain. It's pretty intense. And so I want to talk a little bit about some basic neuroscience around the brain. There's some good news and there's some bad news, of course. Let's dive in. So it was always commonly understood, okay, that you needed substances like alcohol or drugs in order for you to become an addict to that particular substance. Whereas more recent science is actually showing it's not the substance itself that makes it a habit-forming substance, or that we start to rely on it or to crave it. But it's actually the impact that particular substance might have on the brain. Right? So it's what the response of the brain is to a certain behavior or substance that makes it a habit-forming behavior. Now, pornography is not something we drink or inhale in the same way that we might alcohol or drugs, but porn is like a drug. And the reason we can now say that porn is like a drug is because the brain responds to pornography in a very similar way that the brain would if we were to be consuming drugs. What is this? I want to look at some very basic stuff here that anybody can understand. Basically, in the brain, we have something called the pleasure center, or the reward center of our brain. The reward center of our brain is responsible for letting us know, okay, and the way that it will let us know is it will dump something called dopamine, which is a neurochemical. The brain will dump dopamine, which is like a feel-good hormone, into the brain from the pleasure center to let us know, hey, this feels good. We really like this. This is pleasurable. Now, the things that dump the most dopamine in the brain are eating, exercise, and sex. So if you playing soccer, you can, and you're enjoying that game, or you're playing rugby, or you're eating out at your favorite restaurant and you're enjoying your meal, you're out with friends and you have a handshake or a hug, or if you're with your loved one and you kiss or you hug or you make love, you can be sure that the pleasure center of the brain is going to dump dopamine into the brain, which will make you feel good, which will say, hey, when I kiss my wife, it feels good, I should do this more, right? When I eat in my favorite food, it feels good, it tastes good, I should eat that favorite food even more. When I run in the morning, hey, I know it might be hard getting out of bed to go for the run, but while I'm running and after the run, you can feel, hey, this feels good, I've got to do this more. Now the thing is, when we look at porn, it dumps an enormous amount of dopamine into the brain. This is interesting, right? Is that the brain does not know the difference between reality and perceived reality, right? So whether you're actually having sex, or whether you're actually kissing somebody, or whether you're watching kissing or sex through a porn video or in a magazine looking at something sexual, the brain responds in quite a similar way, okay? So please know that when you're watching porn, the brain doesn't really know the difference between whether you're just looking at it or doing at it, and it's gonna drop the same level of dopamine into the brain from the reward center of the brain, which is gonna start telling you, hey, porn feels good, right? You should do this more. You should look at this more. And so once the brain starts or finds something that results in dopamine being dropped into the brain a lot, it starts to create these neural pathways. It looks for highways. It looks for things that will trigger you that when you see something, your brain will start to recommend or suggest, hey, when you see, sex feels good, or porn, gives your body that sense of a rush, the arousal, the high. And so when you see that pretty woman, when you see that handsome man, we're going to the brain creates a highway that when you see a beautiful woman, see an attractive man, you're like, hey, I want to look at porn, right? Now, porn is on the phones, it's on our laptops, it's on our computers, our TVs. And so every time sometimes we pick up our phone, that can become a trigger. So like we get porn through Instagram, Facebook, Netflix. You're surfing the internet, right? For some people, just turning YouTube on or going on YouTube, the brain will already, if you've watched porn on YouTube, the brain will say, hey, remember when you go on YouTube, that's where that website was. And so this is why people can sometimes feel like, why am I being tempted constantly to watch porn? Like Satan is just so, he's on the front foot all the time with me. He won't give me a break. Now, again, as I said at the beginning, Satan will certainly be tempting you to watch pornography. But honestly, if you've been watching pornography for a while, Satan may not even need to be tempting you very much because your brain is doing all the recommendations for you, right? Your brain is seeing your phone, looks at YouTube, sees Instagram, sees a pretty woman, sees a good-looking man, whatever it might be for you, and it reminds you, hey, that's a highway, this is a trigger, let's look at porn. It's really intense, right? But that is what is often going on, okay? So porn releases huge amounts of dopamine in the brain, and then we begin to constantly seek it out. The brain creates pathways, it looks for ways to present that to you more and more and more in order to achieve the same high, okay? So when someone's looking at pornography, while you're looking at it, you're experiencing sexual arousal, you're experiencing the high. So the high of drugs will be different than the high of porn. But the brain, when you get that dump of dopamine, we experience the high, okay? But then after we finish the activity, we come off the high. Now, what does the brain do? The brain's like, well, if that's where we were when we were watching porn or going for that run or kissing our spouse or eating that meal, we're not doing that anymore. Now we're here. So the brain goes into overdrive to look for opportunities for the next high because it wants to be back up there, okay? So that's why someone who might be struggling with porn has been praying a lot to get over it or get out of it, and they're not having any success. It's probably because they don't understand the impact that porn has on the brain. Now, our brain can change, right? It's something called neuroplasticity, which means just like our brain can create pathways that are unhealthy, that lead us to something like porn, our brain can also change shape and you can interrupt those highways. We can interrupt those patterns and we can teach our brain a new way of thinking, or we can sever, right, the old highways that led to porn and create new pathways to something more empowering. Now, when I take people, my clients, through my Break Free from Porn coaching program, the first 6 sessions I do with everyone is I interrupt the pattern, right? We break the highways and we interrupt the pattern, and the rest of the time coaching them is simply to condition them in these new patterns of thinking or behavior, okay? So it is absolutely possible, even if you've been looking at porn for 10 years, we can rewire your brain, change the way that you think, right? Interrupt those triggers, interrupt those patterns, and create more empowering ones that would lead you to purity and get your life back on track. If you are interested in knowing how to do that, reach out to me, or you can apply to work with me, and I would be over the moon to take you through that and help you get porn free. Hope this was helpful. Like, comment, subscribe, share this content with someone you know it might bless. God bless you all, and thanks for tuning in.